We are back.
We are. I love when you say that. Where've we been?
Oh, we really have. We're here, but you know what?
I could sleep here. I love it so much.
I want to thank everyone for all their feedback, for listening in, and because there's other things they could be listening to. So to tune in to us, we're really honoured.
Feel blessed.
But to more just than listening to us, watch us. So we are on YouTube, and it's free to subscribe, isn't it?
Well, there's a couple of times we've had things on the table, or we're showing things, and I'm like, well, tune into YouTube because you'll see it.
Yes.
Because actually, I have to be honest, I started podcasting because I used to be in television, makeup every day, clothing and whatever. And I started podcasting. I thought, I don't have to wear makeup. I can wear a tracksuit and Ugg-boots in. And then YouTube came around. I went, oh my God, I've got to put makeup on, whatever. But it's pleasurable to see both, and you've got a choice.
It's great. Well, what do they call it? Vodcasts now. Vodcasts are having a voddy. But
I know that with tonic, thanks. But that's a tonic.
Let's get on to this one because we have got someone extra special with us, and
you've got extra.
A lot of expectations now.
With a really beautiful voice too, I must say.
Very velvety,
velvety.
Like caramel.
Caramel voice. So we're loving this one. But let's welcome Michael Usher, who has spent more than 3 decades at the centre of some of the biggest stories in Australia and around the world. An award-winning investigative reporter, foreign correspondent, news anchor. He's covered nearly everything. War zones, 9/11, the Iraq War, royal weddings, the Queen's funeral, elections, the mushroom murders. And you'd know him now as he's the chief network anchor to 7 News. Very impressive.
Whatever that means.
But he certainly is. He's the host of Spotlight, Channel 7, and we love that. Absolutely love that show.
I do too.
Yeah, he just continues to bring to us Aussies the stories that matter. He's so well respected. He's interviewed fascinating people from all over the globe.
God, you're amazing.
I know.
Just end the podcast here. That all sounds good. So
I'm just watching his
I don't want to ruin it now.
And what about the unforgettable one with Fergie when the judge just walks out? So I want to hear about that one. So as I was saying, his career has taken us to all corners of the world, from major breaking news to stepping out in tights and sequins on Dancing with the Stars.
That was the hardest one I've ever done.
Seriously, it have to be.
A true gentleman, a proud dad of 3 and an all-round great bloke.
Wow.
Michael is nominated for the Logie this year, and woohoo, we are right behind him there. And so we are
I'm looking at you going,
to
whoa!
have you at the back fence, or as people sometimes know and friends call him Mush.
Yeah,
so
I like
welcome.
Mush.
Whatever you like. So thank
Mush
you.
is beautiful.
No, thank you very much for having me on.
Mushy
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
The M for Michael and the Usher is in Usher.
It's in Usher, yeah. So
it's really
Mush
cool.
or Musher, which is how all your emails get written or your shortened things on computers at work. So it's always been the M.
Like we're just talking about my sister that you know, and
Rosie.
she used to end things. She used to be the PA to Peter Meakin, head of news at 9, and she used to, you would just say how she'd finish words with pop.
Pops on pop, yeah. Mushy pops.
Mushy pops.
Mushy Pops.
Oh, there's Daisy
That's a
Pops.
good
Daisy
or
Pops.
Nicola Pops. So it's so cute.
She's hilarious.
Okay, after that intro, I think I'll just leave. No.
Yeah, okay, well.
And seriously.
Walk out that door.
Yeah, like seriously. It's like, but I always think a great way to start an interview, like, as you would only know, funny that, is like, okay, I often sing, where do I begin?
She breaks into song.
Was there a defining moment for you in your early, I don't know, teens?
Yeah.
When you went, I want to be a journo. Tell us about that.
There actually was. And I think I'm one of those lucky people who knew in school or from my mid-teens what I wanted to do. And that doesn't always happen.
No.
But I grew up in Western Australia, and
we'll forgive you.
We were on summer holidays. Yeah,
I lived there for a while.
And I was a TV generation kid, so consumed a ton of TV. The Saturday morning cartoons, the Logies, the news, everything I could find, I'd watch TV. And I remember watching some of the correspondents, and it was when that space shuttle crashed in America. And I was watching all these, there was a big event, and it was early in the morning, it was on the breakfast television news. And I remember seeing the Australian correspondents, on the scene and reporting, and I thought, wow, like they're Australians who grew up here, but they're over there covering this major thing. and there's a job that could take me, to the other side of the world or around Australia, and what a great way to have a career. My parents were teachers. We'd lived in the country a fair bit. We'd travelled a lot. Mum and Dad, great fans of history and travel. So I think I combined those two things and turned it into a career. But I just remember looking at the TV going, well, they've had to have come from somewhere in Australia and worked their way up and got it. And I thought that would be an incredible career to have. So I think I set my sights on that. And, out of school, got into a course, did that, then got a cadetship when they still existed, like an old-fashioned TV cadetship in country TV in Western Australia, and got into it a whole lot sooner than I thought I would. I thought I'd trudge around in all sorts of other media for ages before I could become a broadcast reporter. But it all kicked off pretty quickly. So, and
you know why you believed.
So.
We often talk about that, don't we, in interviews about believing.
Yes.
Like you believed.
Well,
and you had the passion. This is what I want to do.
Look, and I had very, very open parents who never ever said, oh, this is the path you've got to go down, or here's what you should be doing, or if you want to have your sights set on this, do. They just said, look, we'll back you, whatever you want to do. And they did that in lots of ways. And like I said, I mean, WA is remote as it is, and in parts of the country where we'd lived as young kids for a couple of years when Mum and Dad moved around as teachers, it was a long way from anywhere, and TV was your window to the world.
Right.
And you're living in small places, remote places, thinking, well, if I can go from there to the other side of the world with a job, how amazing would that be? So, and I think it's a mentality when you've grown up somewhere a little bit more remote.
Interesting.
Because we also grew up referring to everything on this side of the country, as a lot of West Australians do, as over east. Everything was over east.
Well, when I lived there, called me an Eastern Stater.
An Eastern Stater,
Stater.
In other words, you're an outsider.
Yeah, I know. And I used to take offence to it. I had to calm that down.
But I'm just looking at everything over here on this side of the country and then around the world going, well, I never thought I couldn't do it. I just thought it was possible. And I think I was lucky to have been raised that way, and I didn't see barriers to trying a job. None of us in our family were journalists or broadcast TV people, so I knew no one, couldn't work out how to do it, but then, I don't know, found a way to open doors and kept on going.
And
so very lucky.
A little bit about Kalgoorlie days.
That was wild.
I mean, was that true? That
it is Wild West. It is still is Wild West.
That's all I
West.
get that image.
Yeah. Well, my start in Kalgoorlie was a rude shock. I mean, it was.
Have you ever been there?
Have you been?
I'm going
How
to
was that? No.
I can't wait though. I mean, I'm going to WA in next month. I'm actually going to Margaret River.
Oh, beautiful.
The whole of
that's
the girls.
fine.
We're doing.
You're not going to Kalgoorlie.
We're doing.
Well, that's the opposite of Kalgoorlie.
That's what I'm thinking.
I know. Walking and wine tasting.
No, that's perfect.
We booked Best Felix in and.
Oh, gorgeous. Yeah, that's a good place too.
I want to hear about that.
No, look, Kalgoorlie. I mean, my entree to Kalgoorlie was a rude shock from the very beginning because I worked for it. I'd only just started. I'd only been a reporter for about 5 or 6 months. On this cadetship, and we were in Bunbury, which is where the base of it was Golden West Network News, it was GWM, and the news director, who in hindsight was from the school of tough love. I just thought he hated me. I thought he absolutely despised me, but he pushed me. He pushed me hard.
Good.
And he pulled me in on a Friday afternoon. I mean, I still type with 2 fingers. He hated that. He just thought I was an idiot in many ways. But he called me in on a Friday afternoon, and he was a funny bugger. He said, Usher, do you like culture? And I went, I think I'm quite cultured. And he goes, well, you're about to get a culture shock. He said, you start in Kalgoorlie next week. I went, like to go and do a story there. He goes, no, I'm transferring you there. And I said, but I live here. And it's 10 hours the other way. Yeah. And he goes, that's not my problem. It's yours. What he was doing was he'd actually graded me, but instead of saying, hey, by the way, well done, I'm going to make you a C-grade journo and you've taken a bump up and you're off the cadetship. It was a slap in the face on the way through and, kicking the butt and off you go. So I got out to Kalgoorlie, but it turned out to be the best thing that could ever have happened to me. Certainly, I don't know, personally and career-wise definitely, but personally, because out in Cal in those days, and I think it probably still is the way that now, it's miners, gold rush, gold boom, and there was a gold boom at the time, so a lot of money flowing through the place. small town, big thinking, big influence kind of place. So you had all ranges of stories. It was politics and business and bikies and crime and all stuff going on. But
the pubs would have been exciting.
well, the pubs are non-stop and they're 24/7, and that was the other part of the equation too. So we got out there, but everyone goes out there to get their break. So I lived with a couple of teachers, the young cops, the young nurses. Everyone was like me, if you weren't working in the mines, getting a break, which made a great fun environment. And the pubs, because the mining shifts are 24/7.
Oh, that's why I'm trying to figure it out.
7 a.m. on a Monday morning is as busy as 6 o'clock on a Friday night in any other city or town around Australia. And the skimpy barmaids and all the rat bag stuff. And
I'm getting the boobs.
it opened my eyes to a lot, that place. I remember I got a call one day from, because it's quite Hay Street, it was famous for its brothels in Kalgoorlie as well. I got a call from one of the madams, and she said, I've got a story for you. Would you like to come and do it? And I rocked up to this brothel with my cameraman, and it's working 24/7 as well, because the miners are non-stop, and they got cash galore. And she said, got a major problem here. She goes, look, partly not my problem, but we've gone into bankruptcy, and the bank has seized the brothel. I think it was Westpac at the time. And she goes, I'm trying to get through to people to tell them, are you aware that your major bank in Australia now owns a brothel, right? And I've got to manage it for you. They just saw it as a building. They didn't know the nature of the business inside it, right?
Right.
So anyway, I put this story to where and tried to get hold of it. And I said, the bank that owns a brothel. She got it back.
Oh, great.
Because the last thing the bank wanted to do was like, hang on, we're not too sure what we've repossessed here.
Yeah.
And the
Amazing.
local sergeant in town used to, even though it was all illegal, used to technically, he had oversight of all the brothels just to make sure they behaved and worked well. And he became an interesting guy to deal with as well, because it was Wild West stuff. Like he'd ring me sometimes and go, hey, look, there's a major train derailment 2 hours out of Kalgoorlie. You want to get here?
What, did they hold them up with the guns?
Seriously? Like that kind of stuff.
I'm thinking you say wagons?
I think it'd hit a herd of camels or something like that. And I said, look, I can't. Like I'm on deadline. I can't get out there that fast. And he goes, Michael, he said, where do you think all the cops are? He said, we're all on the scene. You can speed if you want. Just get here.
Oh, that's
But he actually, the same bloke followed us home from the pub one night, and I won't say the full version of this story because it was quite illegal. But I remember the lights going off behind the car, and he said, Usher, get out and get inside. And the cameraman, he said, and you, just park the car and go home, would you, mate? He said, I followed you from down the road. Like, it was like...
Are you serious? That's the best.
But it was,
Talk about cutting your teeth.
Oh,
like
look,
on
in
every
so many
day.
ways. But we had to churn it out. I had to do 2 or 3 stories a day. Good local community. Wow. And it was mind you, I remember leaving Kalgoorlie and on the drive back to Perth when I finally decided to leave, with a big sigh of relief going, I don't think my liver would have lasted 2 more years of staying out here. It was hard living, it was hard work, it was big Australian sort of stories, and I loved every second.
And then you saw the light headed east.
Headed east, yeah.
Where did you end up? You ended up with 9?
So in 1993, so I went to Perth.
Imagine the contrast.
Briefly.
I know. Well, didn't you get a little punch, a goodbye punch in Kalgoorlie before you left?
No, I got a punch.
I
got a punch in the face. I think it was called dating out there, though. So.
See you, mate. Bang.
That was a woman too.
It was a woman. That's even better.
It was. She took some dislike to me. She said, "You're the bloke from the telly," and I went, "Oh, I am actually."
Bang.
Anyway, but that was. Look, it was a great experience. So you got
on your horse and you
got on my horse, got out of the Wild West, and turned up in the Big Smoke in Sydney eventually. And that I could not believe my luck when I got here. I mean, I literally drove over that harbour bridge for the first time and couldn't believe that I was starting a job.
How old were you?
I was 23.
Baby.
In this great big city, and didn't really know anyone at all. But, this... And again, that job happened the same way. A big old school news director called me one day and I was sitting in Perth and he goes... he asked it in a curious way. He said... what are your hopes, dreams and ambitions? And I said, again, I started rattling off like an oral CV. Oh, well, I'd like to one day. He said, no, you idiot, I'm offering you a job and you start in 3 weeks. I went, oh, well, sorry, how is this happening? And like, who do I speak to? What am I actually being paid? And he goes, I don't know, it's nothing to do with me. He said, another bloke called Jeff will call you and work that stuff out. And so packed up my little Honda Civic with a big blue suitcase in the back of it and got over
cute.
here. You know,
Blue suit.
I know. You know those big old plasticky
I
ones.
actually thinking of that. That's what I was thinking of. I'm thinking, here I go. Oh,
So
how's
and then start
nerve-wracking.
but I remember getting here and I wasn't. I just couldn't believe that I was working here. And I got extremely lucky because I work with great people, moved in with a cracker of a woman in a flat in Neutral Bay, and she'd just come out of a divorce and starting over again. She worked in TV as well. And I made friends and we had this great apartment and it from the get-go,
Never looked
it was
back.
just a great experience.
Wow.
You know, and moved to a city where, you know, this is the early to mid 90s. The media was TV was king and everything was rock and roll and it was
Packer
fantastic.
was
So
obviously at the helm then. With
exactly.
Nine.
So it was a good move and a good experience. And then bizarrely, because Sydney had just won the Olympics, so this was a huge time. This sort of Renaissance period in Sydney.
I did go to the opening ceremony.
you did.
And they made me the Olympic reporter. And I was not only trying to get my head around Sydney, but also my head around, you know, I hadn't covered anything to do with
What a
sport or
gig.
Olympics. And then suddenly, well, I don't think we thought it was going to be what it was, but it turned into be like a political round almost because it was everything was so controversial and everything was so big. And it was a great way to sort of immersively get yourself into Sydney and get going. So
And meet people. It's actually. I thought at first when I got this image of you on the Harbour Bridge.
I know.
And I'm thinking, I got the word daunting, like, oh my God,
Well, it was.
what is
Yeah.
it?
It
What
was
is
all
happening?
big.
How is this going to really? I mean, you know. What a gift! Like that's your foundation stone
Yeah.
on the Harbour Bridge. Like, okay, this is the beginning.
Just iconic.
And look, 3 decades later, look at you sitting there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing you haven't covered. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I've been
There's-
lucky in that
There's
regard.
nothing I
Yeah.
believe that you haven't covered. I mean, Nicola did mention a few.
But I was going to say, how did it go? I also want to know then you became the foreign correspondent. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So then you went to the States.
Yes, with 3
Did
years
take
in...
over from Nick McCallum.
Yes, I did.
Because I know Nick,
Did
because I'm
you?
a
Okay.
Melbourne girl
Met me.
originally, you know, and so I know he's a lovely
Amazing.
guy.
Fantastic fella.
And so
Yeah.
you took over from Nick.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I took over.
is that
From,
right,
I took
or-
over from Nick in many ways.
Oh,
because
okay.
There was also. That
says a lot.
So Nick McCallum's one of our great reporters in the Seven
Yes.
Network, but he's and he won't mind me saying this at all.
Hi,
But-
Nick.
but he's-
Remember me from... I went out with another guy from Scotch College.
He would, but he's quite a hoarder. He has like paper. He's one of these old school journalists. He's got a mountain of
right.
paper around his
Keeps
desk.
it.
And I took over not only his role as the
Yes, yeah.
correspondent, but also his car because it was a company car.
You mean you traded in the Civic?
And it was the oh goodness me, it was like these kids had gone to war in this car. It was a big old white van, and there was
so
stuff everywhere.
Macca's labels and all
It
that.
was all of that.
Oh,
So
I love it.
It was hilarious.
And
But,
were you there then for 9/11?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
So we
that
had
would have been
3 years
unbelievable.
in the US, and we were in New York because Leighton Hewitt had just won the US Open.
You
so
were
I'd
there when it
yes,
happened?
Yeah, so we'd been covering it.
the US
in
Open.
fact, I'd driven to the airport that morning. So and isn't this the funny thing? I was in the taxi with the cameraman, and it was a beautiful day in New York that morning. Sunny, gorgeous, the whole lot. And we looked through the back window of the car, and I've always done this in all the places I've been to around the world. Like always lived in the moment and appreciated where I was, rather than worked hard, but rather than just get in and out of places and you forget where you've been.
Yeah.
And I turned around and said, "Andy, look at that. I mean, that is a beautiful day, and how amazing that we've been,
I
here
can't stand
in
that.
New York." So,
And
well, no, we got to the terminal, and then the plane started
okay.
hitting the towers.
But you had turned around.
Well, we bailed out quickly. Back in the day where we actually checked all the tons of camera equipment. So we checked it all into the airport.
Yeah.
And my wife was back in LA and we were pregnant with our first child and she'd been up all night. And I quickly called her and she goes, "Where are you now?" And I said, "We've just checked everything in, about to get on the plane." And she goes, "Look, I think you might want to turn around. Looks like it was because the first report was a light plane had gone off course and hit the thing." She goes, "Either way, that's going to be, a news story for you in your job."
Don't love the wife calls.
Yeah. So anyway,
This is remarkable.
so I said,
with all your
And
contacts
she's
and everything.
pregnant. But how thoughtful
Yes.
of her.
Yeah.
well, I think
Turn
she'd
around.
been up all night, so I
Yeah.
think she'd been watching
Like,
TV.
don't come home, stay. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, before you knew it, we were battling back through Manhattan. Because by that stage, like the buildings, all the bridges had shut down, so Manhattan went into lockdown. And I remember saying in a report some days later, it's like, that city, that heaving city of 8 million people, had become an isolated village overnight because they shut the tunnels, they shut the bridges, they shut everything. And if you were on the island, you stayed on the island. There was no getting on and off. And particularly that part of low-end Manhattan, which is so terribly affected, it was just a ghost town. And it was eerily quiet, and it was just such a weird, unforgettable, overwhelming, emotional feeling being there. The whole story was overwhelming, and I've covered a lot of big things over time, but that one remains probably the hardest to have reported.
That's interesting.
Because it was so big. It was just, I could not get my head around it.
No.
And I've, in years since, I've thought about this a lot. There was one, I was live, and keeping in mind, it was hard to get on air in those days too, because all the mobile phones went dead because the towers were on the Twin Towers. So the mobile phone networks went dead. I had no access at all to news information. I went and bought a transistor radio. There was a shop open, little tiny, I've still got it at home. Pull out aerial, little tiny pocket thing, right? And started tuning into radio stations that were still broadcasting from the area. And they were covering the events and running the press conferences live, so I could hear the information, the officials talking. So I had that in one ear, a little cable, and I had the network in the other ear. And I was sort of filtering information and trying to work out what was going on. But there was one moment in all of that broadcasting where I said something to the effect of, the Twin Towers have collapsed. Manhattan is locked down. The president is in hiding, location unknown. The Pentagon's on fire. Another plane has crashed with all passengers lost, and no one knows where it is right now. And that was the one that crashed in the farm field. I remember saying it in that sentence, going, okay, well, what's the next? What do I say next? Are we on the edge of World War III? Is this what sort of Armageddon are we dealing with? I mean, either way, we all knew, and watching it or reporting it, the world had just shifted that way, and still has to this day.
And you were there. You were on the ground.
We were there doing it all. So.
And you had a crew with you, which is so ironic.
Well, and only because we'd been over there covering the tennis. But a lot of Australian media were in that same boat. They'd all been over there doing that, the ones that weren't based on that side of the country. Because then it took, goodness me, 8 or 9 days before we could get any backup, extra reporters, extra crews, our LA bureau. The rest of them there had mobilised, but then got shut down. Some got diverted to Canada. Some drove from South Carolina. They rented cars. They rode bikes. They did whatever they could to get there, and it just took days and days and days and days and days to get there. So we just reported around the clock away. We literally slept on the sidewalk down in Lower Manhattan for a couple of nights because if you left, you couldn't get back in that area.
Right.
And this is the day of having to be fixed to a giant big satellite truck too.
Yes,
the technology shifted so heavily, so I had to be plugged into a giant van with a dish on top of it so we could keep going live out of that area.
And Michael, let alone I don't know how you go with sort of like, if you had sort of like post-traumatic stress for something like that, when you're there and basically, you're really part of it. How do you deal with that?
we were experiencing watching it.
I flew with the airlines. I went there 2 weeks later to New York, so it was still smoking and smelling. And
and that would have been full of trepidation as well.
It was, but nothing like, and flying in. But I can't imagine for you and reporting on it. Do you get counselling or things like that? Or
the course of counselling in media has shifted heavily over the years. We're very good at it now.
Yeah, of course.
Very good at it. Yeah. We have on-site people who come in a flash and sit down and talk to people. There's a mandatory process if our correspondents, Chris Reason's one of them, he comes back from covering Iran and being in Israel and places like that. There's a standard period now that you have to be spoken to and, it talked through as it should be.
Good.
Like really good professional support.
I'm happy about that.
No, back then I had news directors that would say, look, go and check into a great hotel and just make sure you have a good few reds.
Right. Yeah, because that's the way, that was the way of the world, was it not?
Yeah, it was.
Seriously.
Do you know, and
you were talking about the scotch under the desk earlier on.
Yeah, well, I'll put that in context later on for people who don't know. There's a story behind the story.
It was a friend.
No, I'm happy to talk about that. But look, I've got different views and all of that, and it does depend on the individual and how you handle it. Yes. I got more upset during that time because my family and friends thought that I was on one of the planes because the last I had texted everyone was about to leave New York, jumping on a plane now. They all wake up and see planes going into buildings. So the extended trauma, in fact, on my family and friends. They were quite impacted, which I felt terrible about. And
Thank God your wife got through to you though.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wasn't aware of that for some days. So that actually later affected me more.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get
Because
that.
I've been to stories, and these are never great things to talk about, where I guess I've seen, 9/11 was, the scale of it was crazy. We knew that atrocious things happened. But in terms of actually seeing suffering, I saw it in people's faces in New York in the days afterwards, because poor family members were getting onto Manhattan with photos of their dead going, have you seen Dad? Have you seen Mum? Have you seen my sister, my brother? And that was haunting and terrible. But I've been to other stories where I guess up front the terrible things have been more obvious and more visual, and they have been quite traumatising. But I talk a lot. I'm pretty good at downloading things. I have a really lovely network of friends and friends in the industry as well. We talk a ton.
Good.
So I don't
Healthy.
Look, I'm one of my bad/very good habits is that I compartmentalise extremely well. And that lets you handle a lot of things at once and juggle.
Not too much
sometimes
noise.
what we do. I can really just lock in and do it. The trick of anyone who's been through grief or trauma or life's ups and downs is not keeping all of that boxed away.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, when you least want it or least expect it, sometimes those boxes just fling open and all the stuff that you've packed away, compartmentalised, comes out in the wrong way.
What about
so
your
you've got to
cooking?
manage
What about
that.
your cooking?
Oh, I cook a lot.
I hear that
love cooking.
some of the guys on that would go, oh, God, he's cooking a curry.
Like,
He's really stressed. So
You've done good
tell
research
me,
here.
Tell me, I love that stuff. Nicola and I love
We love it.
We
We
love
wanna-
that more than
Exactly.
anything because people can empathise,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Well, I use
what
it
are
as
the
a
other
good
things you cook
release.
and they go, oh no, he's this because he's cooking that. But
For some reason,
but
it's
you
become a
cook to
stress
unwind,
indicator. Yeah, I do, heavily.
ultimately.
So I love...
Do you?
Yeah, I really...
Wish I had that.
I really enjoy
He's a
it.
good catch, isn't
I
he?
know.
He cooks like
He
that.
loves to
yeah.
bloody
Oh.
cook and a
I may-
Or is it just for the kids?
I think it's mostly it's mostly for the
So
kids.
you unwind with cooking. That's a great
I
thing.
unwind through
It's a-
cooking, and I don't know whether
Wow.
I don't know when that became a thing, but it's been a thing for a long, long time. And what you're referring to, which is good research, is there's a couple of producers I work very
Yeah.
closely with and have done for many, many
Yeah.
years. And someone at work will go, look, I'm trying to get through to Michael, and he said he was cooking, and they'll go, was it a curry? And they'll go, actually it was. And they go, okay, well, get back hold
He's
of him
really
now.
stressed.
That means he's super stressed. If he's going to an intensive 10-step recipe or something.
What if you're cooking an apple pie? What does that mean, for God's sake?
No, I haven't analysed that one, but
Oh, no,
yeah, that
seriously.
just might be indulgent.
How
but-
Well, I
Wonderful.
think
Yeah.
that's really good. But then from one extreme like that to the other, you've got to tell us about the Fergie one as well.
Oh, she wants to hear this. So
Well,
do I, like,
look, it was
badly.
just one of the most...
She's,
prickly, was she?
she's an unusual character.
Do you know, it was just so
She's
odd. We went to do an interview with Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess, on the outskirts of London in Buckinghamshire. She had written a book. And of all the things I've been into over time, and I'm actually not good at celebrity interviews at all, and this was a celebrity interview, really.
Yeah.
I'm not good at them.
Yeah.
Awful at them. Terrible at them. But it was, of all the things I could have been stressed about, this was nowhere near it, right?
No.
She'd written a book. It was a mea culpa. She'd done some terrible things, and she'd written fairly honestly about most of them. Plus, she wanted to earn a quid. So we went into this interview.
Flogged the book.
And we had a full day with her, and the morning was quite charming in this beautiful English countryside setting. And she was walking a horse, and we had lots of chit-chat and sat on a bridge and talked about life, and it was all very, very nice. It was quite a charming experience. But then in the course of the main interview, the master interview we call it, she just flicked a switch and became a completely different person. It was like a different personality.
What, the microphone was there and then she flicked?
Yeah, cameras rolled for the actual
Wow,
sitting
it's like
down
she was
face
butting
to
you up,
face.
like,
And I obviously had a lot of questions. I actually don't write down a lot of questions anymore. I can
me.
keep but it's good to do. I mean, I would prefer in those ones where you're one-on-one for quite some time, because you've got to listen to people. And if I'm checking off questions, I'm going to forget what they've actually said. So I'd rather keep a checklist in my mind about the topics we've got to get to. So I had just gone into the conversation generally. I had some bullet points. And one of the moments that she had written mostly openly about in the book was taking money from one of these fake sheikhs in one of these tabloid stings. And it was a substantial amount of money, tens of thousands of pounds, and she'd written about how she gave it all back. And I just wanted to press her a bit on when she gave it back, because there was some detail missing. And it was, well, did she give it back when she realised then and there that she had done a bad thing, or only when she'd been exposed or found out? You know, in other words, was she actually going to keep the money had she gotten away with it or not? Anyway, I didn't even go that hard on her, to be honest. I've been a lot harder in interviews. And she just took offence at it, and she didn't want to talk about it, and she then started to make out, in a sense, that this was an off-topic conversation, and this was a completely unconditional interview. There was nothing written down or verbalised at all about you cannot go here. She had written the book. We were free to ask questions about the content of the book. She took great offence. She just became a very different person. But then she walked out. She had a publicist with her. There was all this weird conversation. None of us understood what she was actually saying off camera. She went and stuck herself in a room for a while. The producer I was working with, a very good fella, he'd gone in and said, look, we're really unsure of what is going on here, but you'd be wise to come back if you could, otherwise this is what it is. And anyway, she came back, but it was very frosty after that, and she answered questions but wasn't really engaging.
It's never the same when they come back, is it?
No.
There's been a few interviews I remember.
Did you have to call her Duchess or something as well?
She insisted on that, and that was, there was a lot of palaver around her, and she had rocked up in a little entourage, and she had minders and whatever else, and I, as we do as Australians, into these places, and by that stage she was well on the outside of the royal family and not working as an official royal. So I had called her Sarah a few times, and they said she'd prefer to be Duchess, please. It's like, okay, right. Fine. Anyway, we get to the end of the whole interview. It finally finishes. It's back and forth. And after it all, I literally sat back and thought, I really don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
And there were tough questions, but she had written about them. I didn't have any extra information up my sleeve at all. No. It's not like we were going to throw something on her that she didn't know about. Afterwards, the switch went again, and I got the charming happy Fergie. Now, Michael, now, are you happy with that? Is that fantastic? And it's like...
same person?
It was really strange. And I remember I walked outside at one stage, and there was this grassed area, and she came out and spoke to me. And I said, look, if I were you, just my advice, I would be asking me to do that interview all over again. I said, I don't know what happened there. Like, I really genuinely was surprised by the way you handled that. And then she started making arrangements to cancel some trip the next day and the following day and do it all again. And I said,
you're kidding.
We've come in and out of Australia for this. This was a quick turnaround for us. I said, we are here now. We are fully set up. We are, if you want to stick a few more hours and try it again, more than happy to give you that opportunity. And then it all just became a mess again. And it was anyway. We said, "Look, we're done. We're done. We're done."
There's another one I'm thinking
of.
Speaking of Perth, Rose Portus with. I think possibly when Lang passed away, and there was Gina Rinehart in the house and all of that going on. Were you?
I did that story.
You did that
and
one.
that would have been a bloody circus. Seriously, how did you deal with that?
Well, I was a baby journo then.
Full on.
So we got. This is a fascinating.
What a story.
What was the name of the house? What was the name of the house?
Prita Moore.
Yes.
Hello.
Prita Moore.
Yeah.
Incredible. Even
like
just
sort of Gone with the Wind kind of thing.
Exactly.
Wow.
I'll give you the short version
I want to watch that again.
Seriously?
I can talk forever.
And
So
out the back. Just give us that.
I'll give you the brief version of the whole
juicy.
story. So I'm sitting in the newsroom.
Gina's
My
in the
news
media
director
at the
comes to me and says, we just got a weird call. There's a bloke sitting down in Fremantle Courthouse going, Gina Rinehart's just rocked up trying to get an AVO on Rose Porteous. And this guy was in court for his own reasons, but he's rung our newsroom going, I'm in a bit of trouble myself, but there's something really weird. There's something really weird happening here. So anyway, so news director says, get over to the house. And as I got over to the house, Gina was in this Mercedes. She rocked, because Prita Moore was a compound. The big flash house was at the front of it, but there were all these other houses down on the slope. It was a big family compound. Know that. And Gina rocks up to the intercom, and I've gone, well, Ms. Rinehart, is there something, you didn't know anything. I said, is there something going on here? And she was doing the code to the house. And I said, we are hearing that there's an AVO. And she waved me off and went through the gates. But by that stage, and then it just all unfolded literally within a couple of hours. We went live, no one else had the story, and then it just became a circus. There were satellite trucks everywhere, and before you knew it, She's I'm confident in saying this, someone will fact check me, but there was a hospital stretcher with Lang on it. She got the AVO. He was taken out of Predamore into one of the other houses where Gina was staying, and she had secured Dad away from Rose at the time, and then it just became a circus. And you'll remember the very end point where Rose stood at the steps to Predamore, the big mansion, and handed out copies of the estate and the will. The media would go up the driveway, and she would, and she was in black, and
wow. It's pretty.
We've got a
amazing.
Girlfriend, Leslie Hancock, she's a theatrical entertainer, and she goes into character, and she is hysterical. So she actually does the Rose,
she's brilliant,
and breaks into song and the whole thing, and it's really quite naughty. But
well, I'll tell you a funny little side story about Rose. Right. Yes. So when I got married in 1998, my media mates in Perth rocked up to Predamore and said, Rose, look, Michael's getting married. Would you like to do a little video for him? And they took a cameraman. So at the big dining table, she sat. I haven't looked at the video in years, actually.
Get that one out.
Pull it out.
We want to
anyway,
Can we have a bit?
So she sat down and goes, hello, Michael. And she did this lessons in marriage and life. Right?
So this is your mates doing a video for your
which
wedding.
They played at the wedding.
I love this.
Right?
What fabulous
So
roles.
anyway, and Rose,
and the fact she did it.
Rose is there in full flight, and I think I hope I get the wording right. But at the end of it, her final bit of marriage advice was, which turned out to be ironic, saying, "Now, Michael, remember." If the wedding doesn't last, you can give back everything, but give back the ring, but keep the diamond. So
was that played to everyone at the wedding?
And it brought the house down.
And you had no idea.
No idea
just said,
at
I'm
all.
just going to play
No, because they
something.
wheeled out the big old telly.
It's the best.
And then played that at the wedding, and it was Rose's marriage advice.
Unbelievable.
It was very fun.
Actually, talking about that too, I mean, look, we've all gone through divorces and stuff, and you've travelled around the world, and how was it for you? I mean, that must have been hard for you, when you've gone through. What was it? Going through a divorce or going through like any marriage?
Oh, incredibly difficult. I really.
We've been in fetal position, over different things.
Oh, look, I mean, I think like anyone who's been through divorces, I mean, that marriage breakdown was, a huge source of grief and regret. And, it was just an awful, awful, awful time. And trying then to keep on working and juggling it. And at that stage, I was on 60 Minutes. So the travel in that was intense. And we were away 6-7 months of the year.
Yeah, people forget that with journos.
Yeah, and look, I'd be away for a bit, but then intensively come back, and you could work from home for another couple of weeks and then juggle everything and get it going. And look, I always thought it was fine and we were managing this correctly, and it clearly wasn't. So, everything takes a toll.
And 3 children.
And 3 children, yeah.
3 kids.
So, look, especially, there's a couple of moments over time where, if I'm honest and reflect on it all, I think, when you're in the moment, you go, I can handle all this, I'm bulletproof, and family is fine, kids are fine, I'm fine. It isn't sometimes. And there was, when I went and covered the early stages of the Iraq War in 2003, Tom at that stage was only 1. And I remember coming home from that, because that was, I think, probably almost 3 months away in various parts of in country in war, and then waiting in Kuwait and all those sorts of things. And I remember getting back, that was LA at the time, arriving back home, and he had changed, because a little kid at 1, 3 months is a big time.
It's a big time.
And those things
milestone points,
were hard.
Yeah, triggering.
And then, because look, the job is always strange hours, and that's just part of it.
It is.
But then long times away, has certainly taken a bit of a toll. And I guess 10 years ago, I shifted that pretty heavily, where I thought Tom was about to start, my oldest was about to start HSC, or his Year 12 exams. So I pulled back on all the international travel and changed the job quite significantly to be around, have mostly stayed in that lot of bits and pieces of travel, but not those great big, month blocks, sometimes 6 weeks away. The juggle is real, and you think you're doing it right until you realise that you're not.
You talk about dad guilt. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Like, just like, oh my gosh, it's their birthday, it's this, they're starting that, and I'm in the middle of a war zone.
All of those things.
It's tough.
And not being present, and even when you're back around, gosh, I used to think, thought I handled jet lag extremely well, but if I look back on a lot of those times, there's you know it from all your long haul flying. You just go into zombie phases every now and then. And look, you do it all, and I'm extremely hands-on and always have been, but there's just been some, in those early years, major, moments lost. But, you balance it all out, and as the kids, they're young, they don't remember most of it,
I
which
like
is
that
fantastic.
term,
But they
you balance it all out.
do.
Well,
I love that.
and I'm
I love
really
that.
mindful these days. Like
You
I put in
balance it all out.
leave days to make. Particularly my daughter's year 12 this year, so
wow.
there's
Exactly.
showcase moments where you need to be around,
Yes.
and I'm around for all of that, which is fantastic. So
And you cook a good meal, good curry. I'm
Do you know?
I love a good curry. Now, look, I'm going to
love all
really
that, yeah.
take you down another lane. Last year, I was watching Spotlight and I was howling, and I'm getting emotional when I talk about this. The car crash that killed 4 kids out of
Oatlands,
Oatlands. With Danny Abdullah, and you took him to the jail. Can you share this with some of the listeners that might not have seen? Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It looks very
horrendous.
powerful.
And for me, it was about forgiveness.
Yep.
And can you share all this with us?
Well, the Abdullahs lost 3 of their children and their niece. So 4 kids killed that day. And there were 7 walking together, and the others were badly injured as well. I mean, it was quite remarkable that it wasn't more as tragic as it was. So literally in the blink of an eye, those children and incredible families, and it was actually rare for them to walk down the road together. It was a one-off. It was a super hot afternoon in summer, and they had gone down to the shops to buy ice creams. And on that one day of that absolute picture of innocence playing out, a drugged and drunk driver was, in his moment, acting unbelievably recklessly and lost control, mounted the curb at high speed and ran them all over against a fence line near a golf course. The parents were very nearby, so they heard the commotion and raced to the scene. They saw every atrocious detail that they should never have seen. Anyway, that begins a very long journey because it staggered us all that at the time, only a day or 2 later, Danny and Layla Abdullah, the parents of the 3 of the children who died, publicly expressed forgiveness. Extremely Christian people, their faith means everything to them, and they said, we have lost our life in this because the children are our life, but we forgive the driver because that's what our faith says, and we wholeheartedly believe in that. You don't get to heaven if you live with, hatred and guilt and revenge and all terrible emotions. So they express forgiveness, which is, I think it shocked everyone.
I remember.
I came to know them very well, and I had done 2 longer stories with them about the process they were going through, and they wanted to share their message of forgiveness. But last year, Danny out of the blue rang me sometime prior and said, look, I want to share this publicly. I have connected with the killer, Samuel Davidson, who was serving a very, very, very long sentence in a maximum security jail at Cessnock. And he said, I'm meeting him. I have extra forgiven him. In fact, when he's released from jail, which is still 10 years or so away, he will be embraced by my family and we'll have a family barbecue. Right? I need to help this young man. Look, and I said, Danny, I am blown away by you again, and I can't believe that you and your family are doing this. I said, logistically, we can't do the story because media can't get into prisons to do those stories. Like, they're not allowed to interview people behind bars and things like that. Very short version of an extremely long and legal and psychological exercise, and by that I mean psychologists involved. We were granted permission by Corrections New South Wales to go inside that prison to take our cameras in and spend some time meeting Samuel, the killer of the children, and record him and Danny coming together to have these sessions together and talk about what forgiveness meant. Samuel has become extremely Christian behind bars. There is a rarely used because it rarely works, process called reformative justice in the prison system, where if in a particular and very rare circumstance the killer or the perpetrator can genuinely meet the victims of their crimes, they'll allow it to happen.
Wonderful.
It has gone very wrong in some circumstances where either side has lied and used it as a case of a terrible confrontation. So it's extremely, the process involved is berserk.
Yeah.
And of the 100 that have been tried, one might have worked kind of thing. Anyway, this was the example where it worked. So they were keen to show that this can actually work, that yes, people can be locked up, but actually express genuine forgiveness, and that families can accept that, and there's a path forward.
Can you share the DM you received after that?
Well, there were a couple
from a young, I think he was 18-year-old boy.
Yeah,
to you.
So he said
that got me the most.
Yeah, it was really powerful. He said,
I bet that stayed with you too.
He was from Queensland, and he said that whole story last night and the subject of forgiveness. He said, my family, we're close. He said, we've never sat around and spoken about a topic like forgiveness. We watched your story last night. We sat around as a family and questioned what forgiveness meant to each other. That is a conversation our family has never had before. Ever had before. So the impact of that story, obviously for the people who it mattered to, Samuel's family, the Abdullahs and the Saker family, Veronique was their daughter, it meant the world to them that this process has happened. But for the big conversation that sometimes these stories can generate, but particularly this one, to get families around a table to talk about the subject of forgiveness, like what does it mean to you, each other, that was extraordinary.
It's Michael, it is one of those things when you say the power of sharing stories and the good and bad that comes with it. And, the world, there's a lot of horrible things going on. And you see it so much, but then there's beauty. And something like that in the beyond worst times, sort of something, it's incredible. And you did the Bondi ones as well, didn't you? Which is, my daughter actually was there for that one too.
She would have been, that was really hard.
Ben Fordham was meant to be, he went to that, he was emceeing that night, remember? Yeah.
I think to the point you just raised in the question, which is interesting, because I think about it a lot when I do my job. I have a job that's based on people doing bad things and good things.
Incredible statement.
And sometimes I'm not an excellent journalist in the sense that I'm sometimes not pessimistic or questioning enough or cynical enough sometimes to drill sometimes.
Yeah.
You're human.
Sometimes I can. But I'll always go on the side of for the one bad, there's 10 acts of good that most humans do. When humans do bad things, they're sometimes the worst of things, and we're talking about them now.
Yes.
But when good things happen, I think it gives you faith that we broadly as a race do the right thing most of the time, and that's a great thing that keeps us all going, keeps society heading in the one direction and cuts through bad times, and the good always comes out the other end, which is nice. Bondi was difficult to cover because I was very mindful on air. We raced on air, got on air quickly, all that kind of stuff. I just started holidays, got to work, did it. It was a balance immediately, and I can remember in the very short minutes we have before we get on air fast, just saying to everyone quickly in the newsroom, just everyone check ourselves on tone here. This is big enough and bad enough, and it sounds like it's going to get worse, which sadly we discovered it was. We don't need to scare the hell out of the audience or anyone watching us tonight, and information's critical and key because this is a big event that is going to scare a lot of people. And maybe it was experience of having covered a fair bit of terrorism around the world. You can see the big impact it has on cities and lockdowns and shutdowns and how it reverberates through the community because it's never isolated.
No.
These events, it affects us all. So I got on air, and that was from the very get-go. Our poor reporters and camera crews on the scene were seeing everything down there too because they'd got down there fast and they were in the thick of it, and then it was atrocious. So we were mindful of making sure that we weren't overworking them in a sense, so making sure they came off air and had a bit of a break. One of our young reporters in particular, Rex, really saw everything early on, so he did a couple of hours of reporting, then it was like just make sure he's okay. I sent a message to a trusted police contact and I said, look, help us here. And fortuitously, I'd only had a meeting with the police commissioner in New South Wales some weeks earlier and said, look, about fostering better relationships and things like that. And I said, one of the things that we get criticised for heavily in the media obviously is getting things wrong or it's wrong at the time, and information moves so fast these days, and social media is lightning speed in the way information comes out and sometimes incorrectly. So we had to be very careful. So in that whole broadcast, it was about There is no point scaring the hell out of anyone that needs to be more frightened. This is big enough and bad enough as it is. Steady, confident, reassuring information. If we don't know it to be correct, just hold off on the whole damn thing. There's no race here at all. It's a big, terrible event. We have one job tonight, and that is secure, reassured information, and we're with you on this. Like, we're learning it as you're watching it. And if you're at home, and many of our viewers are home alone sometimes, you know, if you're on your own watching this, on your telly or on your phone, whatever device you're watching it on, you just needed to know that we're all with you on this and together.
Oh, I love that.
Because this was going to be bad enough. You could tell because of the issue it was going to be divisive, and you knew in the weeks and months later this was going to be awful, and there'd be all sorts of terrible things said about failings, otherwise, you know, threats, communities, horrible things. So, okay, it's bad. Let's learn it together. Let's do this reassuringly and go from there.
And that's where you've got the experience of doing that, and you know, and I know you do some mentoring as well. And I mean, if anyone's up for the Logies to win it,
I'm
you've
so
got our vote for
excited.
this one as well.
It's the Ray Martin
Award. Yeah, it is.
So
Which is a nice thing. So,
it's fabulous.
Do you like reading the news every night?
I love it. Yeah. No, I really like what I do, and you know, I know media's hard, and it's hard for some people to stay in consistently for a long time, and that's not their fault either.
No.
It's, you know, it can be a turbulent business sometimes. So you kind of keep on hanging in there, and you get to my stage in life. A few of us sat around the other day and added up how many bosses we'd had over time, and I think I got to 28 news directors and 13 heads of news and current affairs.
Wow.
I think it was Ann Sanders stopped counting. She said, I'm not going to add up that list. So, but look,
you have a gentleness about, there's something, you're firm, you're strong, you're believable, but there's a gentleness in which I know this is crazy going back 1,000 years, but Brian Henderson, he had this calm. I remember watching
complete
him,
calm.
and there's something that reminds me of Brian Henderson with you when you're reading news. I just go, it could be something quite horrendous.
Put the glasses on.
Yeah.
Michael's telling me it'll be fine.
Ian
You know
Ross
what
was
I
another
mean?
one like that as well. Roscoe. Ian Ross was
I agree with you.
had the same
I
calm and
agree.
reassurance, and Roscoe had a wicked sense of humour off camera. But the minute that red light came on, you know, and him and Hendo, and that
You mean
was,
like Fergie, as soon as the red light goes?
well,
Yes.
What are you saying?
pick a personality and use that one. Whatever's lurking around in that whatever part of her brain.
And you've got to keep a straight face too, don't you?
Oh, look,
for
it's
some
a bit
things
hard
there.
sometimes,
I mean,
and there are.
must be, you know,
Look,
like
we
that, you know.
we do have a bit of fun between
You
stories
would.
and in ad breaks, because so much of what we do
Yeah.
is pretty serious sometimes. And I've used complete irreverent humour to get through a lot of circumstances. So the question earlier about trauma, I've been in places where I'll do two brief stories. So it was one trip to Iraq, and one of my favourite cameramen and I, Ben and I, were working together. And it was quite intense. The war had slightly settled down, but the insurgents were running the country. We'd gone back to do a story on Anzac Day for Australian troops still in this place called Samoa. And we had this big house that we'd rented because it had to be secured, and you take in a lot of security with you. They're all ex-SAS or commando guys. And this one guy we hadn't worked with before, and he was ex-British Special Forces, and he said, now look, when I sleep, if plans change overnight, he said, just don't knock loudly on my door, because I sleep in microbursts and I have 2 guns under my pillow at all times. And I said, he said, so if the network calls and they want you to go live, because they had to secure the rooftop before you go live, and like all that kind of stuff, security around it. Anyway, I'll tell this bit first. And he said, just don't knock loudly. So, and he said, now here's your bed arrangement. You've got to sleep feet to feet. So if you sit up quickly, you eyeball each other fast. There's a backpack each. There's 10 grand US in each, and there's a bottle of water. And keep your shoe tongues out of your shoes so you can put shoes on fast and run.
Wow.
And the safe house is 2 kilometres down the road, but I'll guide you there just in case the house gets in. So there's all of
Could
this.
you type that up with your 2 fingers,
I know.
please?
So
I need to remember it all.
So it's this completely
Seriously.
intense environment, and he said, "Look, if the house gets raided, and you know they'll get wind that we're here, and we anyway."
Wow.
So we went to bed, and sure enough,
Scary.
plans did change that night, and we did have to wake him. So Ben and I went through this hilarious scenario of doing wake ups, like, you know. And I said, "You go and knock on the door." And he said, "No, you go and knock on the door. I'm not going to knock on the door. But if you knock on the door, go on your belly and go low."
Meantime, an hour
Anyway,
goes past,
so
story's gone.
so we had another mate working with us there who was another cameraman, and I said, "You go and do it, because we're not." But knock low, knock low.
Knock low.
So don't knock high.
And he survived the story.
I know.
You know what? A
But-
sense of humour
isn't it
that
but
helps
it's
you
so-
survive.
That same
literally.
cameraman Ben, we were covering the death of the Pope, John Paul II, and there was a ritual that we learned in the coverage of in the final rites of the Pope having died, his personal priest, I think this is Camerlengo, there's a ritual, and one of them is they take a silver cross off the wall and they tap it 3 times on the Pope's forehead. It's one of these last rites.
I didn't know they hit him on the head, right.
So in the middle of the night, we were sleeping in 1-2 hour sort of sessions in between live crosses.
Yeah.
And
Excuse the
pun.
pun.
I woke up, And I woke up going, what? And Ben's over me. He'd found a wooden cross off the hotel room. And he was tapping me. He said, just making sure you're still alive. I said, Ben, for goodness sake. And we were so tired and so exhausted. But literally everywhere I've been, no matter what the circumstances, grew up watching a lot of those sort of British comedy shows and Monty Python and that kind of stuff. A good bit of humour can get you out of some pretty intense scenarios.
Well, and I think for your mental health too, you were saying, you can't you can't, I can't even say the bloody word.
Compartmentalise,
You don't listen to a full chunk of the noise. The way you deal with that and humour and find the fun to balance. You said the word balance it out.
Just balance it out.
How to balance it out.
Yeah.
That is like that's just gold. Because I was doing research on you and worrying about you. I couldn't help myself. How does he deal with that? How can he cope? How's it possible from wars to 9/11 to whatever? And I just thought, we're going to ask him.
Well, there you go. Humour, a good curry and red wine.
I love that.
There's the trio of therapy right there.
And trio of therapy.
Spotlight is doing so well. And he's being the host of it. You must enjoy that.
I love it a lot. I mean, and look, we, the network gives us an hour on a Sunday night to drill into, and we focus on mostly one subject over the hour rather than breaking it up into a couple of stories. So
concepts.
And that's a lot. So because, and there's a bit of strategy behind it, in the day and age that we live in, with social media in particular, there's a lot of white noise, right? There's tons of information. And
overwhelm.
Cutting through it and finding out whether it's right or wrong. An hour lets you put as much as you can, everything into context, right? So you can take, recently did Pauline Hanson, we've looked at the subject of AI, the tobacco wars, what does it mean? So over an hour you can really get as many people into that story as possible and let it sit for a bit. Allow more of the interview to happen, because that whole era of chopping it all up into bits that are tight and small, and that we're deciding what you should be, really thinking or listening to. And there was nothing mean about that in the time. It was just efficiency of how those stories were done. But if you can give something over an hour, you get more context. And that matters. I think it's really key these days to know the context of what's going on.
More authentic. I
Way
agree.
more authentic.
I agree.
So look, it's a great outlet for good storytelling, and
I really enjoy. We both
choosing.
do, actually.
It is. And
We were talking about it weeks ago, and I went, I saw that.
But also, it jumped. He's Mr. Everywhere too. He jumps in the sea at sunrise, and I was really lucky.
It's been fun to interview all those. Because I love airline things too, so I get a bit geeky about all that stuff. So I get really fascinated by all those things.
It was going to be a 2-minute interview, and I was there for 8 minutes.
Yeah, no, they let that.
It was great. It was, with the passenger that sort of went feral, because on the plane, but it was interesting.
And I'm saying to Nicola, it was the one being sucked out of the window. No, it's the other one.
Wasn't that an amazing story though too?
That was the two people with their belts on pulling him back. I'm like, come on, another airline story.
But I want to ask Michael, before we have to go, I want to know about putting on the tights, the sparkles.
Were you terrified of dancing?
I was terrified doing Dancing with the
Stars. I'm terrified thinking about it for you.
Like genuinely, I can package my nerves up in a way that I can use them for good. I've learnt that over time, rather than shaking and becoming a mess.
Yes.
I lost it on that show. I hold a pen.
Fingers.
I hold pencils and pens a lot, so hang on to something.
Can't do that while you're dancing.
No, but I was squeezing the hell out of like Natalie, who I was dancing with. I mean, she said, not as hard. But it's like hanging on for dear life.
Oh, I don't blame you.
No, I just got chronically nervous. Well, I asked when that opportunity came along, and I thought, if I shop this out to my mates, particularly in news media, I know exactly what the answer's going to be.
Of course.
Yes, yeah.
So I asked the kids and I said, okay,
you had to.
what do you think
Smart.
of this? And they all said unanimously and quickly, just do it, Dad. Like you do so many serious things.
I
and
love
they
your
said,
So
kids.
supportive.
yeah, they are. And they said, look, Dad, there's a whole other side to you that people don't ever see. The mad bit that drives them all mad around the house, and the quirkiness and all that kind of stuff. So they said, just go and give it a go, and why not? You do serious stuff
great
all the
he asked
time.
the kids.
So,
Don't you love that?
Fun.
well,
do that with your
and
kids.
they got really caught up in the whole thing. Like they came to the recordings, and then when it went to where we had these Sunday nights watching, I couldn't sit down and watch any of it. It was
No,
terrible.
I don't blame
Paced
you.
around the house.
I
and
get
talk
that.
about- And actually, my daughter pulled it up on,
Were you
on
cooking a
Rewind
curry?
the other day. Yeah, I know, there's a lot of furious cooking going on at the time. But she pulled it up on TV the other day, and I heard it in the background. I went, no. And she goes, oh, come on, Dad, it's it's time to
That's
watch
where
it
you've
again.
got to
So-
get trauma from. Isn't
Yeah,
it funny?
it's
You've seen
true.
everything else around
It's
the
No,
world.
but I'm
Gets
actually
that.
hot talking about it now. Like it actually, but
Twinkle
that-
toes.
because it was an uncontrollable nerves. Like my feet and knees went, and I couldn't. Like I was kicking out like a robot. And
Wow, you
there
think
was,
it'd be opposite because you're moving your body.
Good for you
Look,
for doing
but I loved
that.
it. I loved
you
every bit
know.
of it. There was one dance in particular, Natalie, who I danced with, and she was just amazing. She said,
The purple hands.
well, I think it was the jive.
From
And
being
in the middle of it,
squeezed.
because through the smiles, she was really good at it because we don't have microphones on. She spoke to me the entire time, like
bet.
and turning left now, right, and dip and lift time. And there's one bit she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." And she goes, she said, "Just go to the crowd and wiggle." So I just went and did this.
Are you serious? Just go and wiggle. How brilliant.
It was so silly.
Amazing.
But anyway,
Watch the
look,
wiggler.
it was
That's
Seriously?
it was a good experience.
You're an all-rounder.
I loved it
That's
so
all I
much.
can
Certainly
say.
are.
And
Well-
what did you say in the intro? 3 decades. Like
Mm.
you know, there's certain people that survive in the industry, and both of us
Mm.
have known people in the industry for a long time. Unless if you're, excuse me, I'm going to swear, if you're a little shit, you don't survive.
You don't last.
I'm sorry.
There's a
if
reason
you're
why.
selfish, you're ego-driven, that's all about me, you don't survive. If you're genuine, you're caring, and you're thinking of others, hence mentoring, you survive.
Yep.
It's that simple. Obviously good at the job at the end of the
Well,
day.
you've also got to
but
have a
it
work
says a
ethic
lot
to
about
back
you
all
as a
that up.
person,
Yeah.
Michael. I mean that. And,
Thank you.
And it's a fickle industry. Any sort of entertainment industry.
Look, I say
So-
to people I mentor at work and my own children and other people in other jobs, right? You do have to make your own opportunities, right? There's not a lot of, I think, there's that whole thing of you make your own luck.
Yeah.
But you put the work in behind it, and if you're prepared to go a bit above and beyond, but also hold your ground sometimes and not be a pushover and hold on to some values, because they're with you the entire time. You can't let bosses that come and go put their values on you. You've got to always be true to yourself along the way. And that's true of any profession or job.
Including the guy who sent you to Kalgoorlie. I mean,
Including that guy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But you know what,
I trusted
they're
him.
good. Like, any other Michael Usher sort of like life tips? Because they're gold. I'd like to hear more.
Yeah, look, I think I've spent a lot of time in recent years trying to be, like, I'm pretty self-aware as it is. I'm terrible at beating myself up. And keeping that in check's a really good thing.
yeah.
Because you can go too far with that.
Yeah.
People go, "Oh, I'm so hard on myself," but you can be really hard on yourself. And I'll have criticised myself inside out before any of the network bosses can come along and go, "Hey, look, let's talk about changing this or do whatever." And I'll go, always, they're really wrong. You go, "Yeah, no, I got it because I've already been worried about that myself." And let's change something here, or let's do an interview a different way, or that topic didn't quite work, or
It
something.
doesn't fester. It's open.
Yeah.
We all agree. Let's change it. Love
Correct.
that.
So always be open. Unless criticism's coming from a place of jealousy and an agenda. Be on board with criticism. Be prepared to change and be
Constructive criticism.
constructive criticism.
I agree.
And just learn from mistakes. I mean, they're there for a reason. And you can't go through life perfectly. You can't go through
such
life
thing.
completely scripted. You don't quite know where this is all going. And I've been a big believer along the way of seizing the day. I've probably pushed through a few more hangovers than I would have liked to, adopting that philosophy. But, you've got to stay in the moment. You could walk out the door now and you never know what's going to happen. And I think in what I do, I interview so many people where they've had that life change happen to them, forced on them. Some people adapt really, really well. Some people then lose themselves in that moment of grief and don't get out of it. But you just never know what's going to happen. So always appreciate what we're doing exactly now.
Wow, we appreciate you, and actually I feel a bit emotional. We used to saying that because it is so true about
resilience,
big ones of trying to live your best life, and we all go through highs and lows, whatever. When you see so much there, but you've got to enjoy the here
You
and
have
now.
to.
And and we're so lucky to have you on here.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
We really are.
Love it.
And
The caramel voice.
The caramel voice.
No, I love your voice.
I know.
I do. I can
Thank you.
close my eyes and listen on
with
TV.
all your things too, is there anything else that you'd really like to aspire to do?
Sleep more? No. No, I've become a lot better at that as
Yes.
well. No, we...
How did you come better at sleeping?
Just force myself.
Yeah.
Like, bit of lifestyle change. Probably a few less red wines at night. No, I did about late last year. I thought, because I'm a midnight 1 a.m. person if I let myself just go and read too much and do everything. So I forced myself to go to bed, 8:30 and give it a crack. And I thought, I've had a really busy year. So there's been times I've just been completely tired. However, I can do it and get to sleep early. But now I'm waking up at 3 a.m.
That's what I was going to say. I
haven't found a way of working out how to get 8 or 10 hours.
Oh, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30. Oh, well, I've had a good night's sleep. I might as well go for a walk at 3:30.
Yeah, well, but and I don't mind that. Yeah, I think we all shift and change the older you get anyway.
Absolutely,
right?
100%.
And
I'm always looking for more avenues and ways to sleep right through because I'm waking at 3.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And what else?
It's
Michael?
hard. Look, in terms, I talk a lot with friends, and a few of us were saying the other day, is this as good as it gets? Like, are we at the place where, because you could spend a lot of time, and I've done it in earlier years, I've got to get to here. I still want to achieve that. I want to, as a career goal, I'd like to, every couple of years I'd sort of reassess and go, well, I'd love to be a correspondent. I'd love to work in long-form current affairs. I'd like to read some news. But what if this is the good bit now?
Oh, it's good.
Right?
Appreciate
and
it.
and
You're
going,
out.
well,
Rather
do you know what?
jumping.
And it's good. Like, it's good rather than
And
then
saying
setting
that.
yourself up for disappointment of... Because, look, here's the truth of it. Everyone's always, and I think this is true of all jobs or places in life, right? Everyone's always got something that you might want. The job you might want, the wage you might want, the lifestyle you might want. But if you keep on just wanting all of those things and coveting those things without understanding how good you might have it in your space, that's a pretty ugly way to... Ugly is probably a harsh word, but it's not a great way to live your...
You're living over there. You're not sitting. You're not centred. I agree.
I think look, it's great to have a sticky beak at everyone else and see what's going on, and
or
it's always
maybe
interesting, and you get ideas.
An opportunity for change,
and
like
you
do
see
another
people,
course or whatever.
Yeah, and you might see someone doing it a way you hadn't thought of, and that's a great thing.
That's a very good point.
But otherwise, sit in the moment and go,
Love that.
look, are you really? Is this a great moment? Or if you're finding yourself stuck on a treadmill and you're just doing the same thing over and over again, that's happened a few times. There's that cycle of stuff you do in your job where you go, well, I think I've done this for the 10th time now. Then that's a good time to think about change. And then sit down and solidly think about how you change course or set your sights on something else. But otherwise, if this is a great moment and if this is as good as it gets, I'm pretty happy.
Well, hey, he's right here at the back fence with us.
So yeah, there you go.
This is the moment.
Hoping he's Mr. Logie Wogie.
Exactly.
Can I ask if
Absolutely. So we're going to hit him with the signature questions.
This is the over the back fence question.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3. What makes you happy?
My kids.
Oh, I love that.
Look, you're...
Are they all at home still now?
Yeah, yes, they are.
Am I right? 1 daughter, 2 boys, is that right?
2 boys and daughter.
2 boys and a
yeah.
girl.
Lovely.
So 20, 24, 19,
That's the
18.
best answer.
Isn't that
With the
great?
life that you've led, like balls swinging on wire, there's so much, and he comes, grounds me, my children.
100%.
Yes.
I mean,
love it.
and
I
that's
love
not
it.
a folksy answer. It's a
I
genuine.
love that.
Because they're the ones that are with you the entire time. Everything else can come and go.
They
But
tell you to go on
they're-
Dancing with the Stars.
And they,
Do it, Dad.
which they probably thought was a joke at the time. But
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
I did it. so,
It's like they're your biggest sort of supporters as you are to them.
and they're
That's a
very,
great thing.
very honest with me as well.
Yeah.
And, and I think
That's what you want.
and that's
You
a
want
great
that.
thing to have.
You actually want that.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this one.
too.
If you could share a back fence, Michael Usher, with anybody on planet Earth, who would it be?
Goodness
and
me,
why?
it's such a big
It
question.
is a biggie. You of all people.
I'm so excited to ask you this.
That's amazing.
We're going to go big here, and it's going to sound partly boring, but I just think because I love history, right?
Yes.
I love all forms of history.
So did your parents.
And it's the Pope. you'd want to have the Pope next door, wouldn't you? Number one, free crackers and wine.
Yeah.
Whenever you ask. But if you could be that close to someone who is the closest to the big fella and go, imagine the conversations you could have over the fence, good and bad, right and wrong. You could say, well, I reckon your guy's getting this one wrong on a few things, and why are these bad things happening in the world? Or just great philosophical chats at the fence.
Are you a religious person?
I'm Christian.
Yeah.
I'm not Catholic. I'm Anglican.
Yes.
And went to a Christian school.
Yeah.
You know, pretty lazy Christian,
Yes, yeah.
if I'm honest about it.
Yeah.
But I am. But I love religion from an historical point of view.
Yes.
Imagine chatting to the Pope about.
Well, you know what?
It's actually, I'm just trying to figure out how to
origins
get
of-
him up on the branch.
Exactly. I remember going
With
to
the-
Rome
with all
with my
the
son,
robes.
and we actually were there, and we saw the Pope come out, and it was fantastic. But I
Wow.
think he'd enjoy having you as a neighbour too.
I think it'd be
yeah.
practical.
That's
so,
for sure. Oh, we'll be
Yeah.
there. I'd love that.
I think we've got to squeeze one more question
We
in.
have to ask this
Do you
one.
want to say?
No, you say it. It's brilliant.
Okay. And I just
Yeah.
want to say, what
Yeah.
would you say to your 20-year-old Michael?
Oh gosh, that's a good question.
It is a great question, this one.
Wow.
Particularly you, with what you've achieved.
You've stumped me.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
We'll give you a minute. I'll
That's
see.
a good
Exactly.
question.
Oh, she'll sing.
You-
Yes,
I
yeah.
think you're filling the gaps.
Well, what were the
No,
songs
I
in
think,
Dancing with the Stars?
Silent night. Oh.
I would probably go back to something we discussed halfway through, which is just don't be that hard on yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break every now and then. That would have helped reshape a few things going forward, I think, as 20-year-old me.
It's a good one.
That is a good one. We
Yeah.
always sort of say too, it's like, students of life, but being kind to
Compartmentalise. I can
yourself.
say that word now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
I
could
think just be a bit easy on yourself sometimes. Still go hard, Michael.
Yeah,
Go,
yeah, yeah.
Keep going the way you're going, but
You can do it,
just
but-
every now and then,
Deep breath.
give yourself a break, and don't overthink that one too much. It is what it is, and go forward. Otherwise, it wouldn't change too much. I mean,
Isn't that good?
I'm not. I mean, we'd all love to go back.
We
and
love you, Michael. We
do
think
things.
you're beautiful.
Oh,
You're
thank
really,
you.
Yeah,
You're a
no.
really good human.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean
no,
that.
that's very
And
kind of
we're
you.
And
Thank
my
you.
sister even yesterday.
Love
Oh,
Robbie.
you're so lucky. You give him my love. I adore him. He's amazing. I went, oh,
Everyone
calm down.
does. Everyone does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and that's
Oh,
It's
mate,
been-
you could probably find some people who don't think that, but anyway.
That's life. That's
No.
life.
And it's
life.
Yes, it
we,
is,
We
yeah.
hope you. And it's, you're going to this is a bit cheeky, but if you get the if you
cheeky.
get the logie, you're gonna get a tap like Larry.
No, I mean, God, Larry is.
He's
bloody
got to
funny.
ask
Isn't he
him.
so
Hilarious.
funny?
Imagine your
Ask
children.
the
Can I
kids.
get a tattoo
Can
of
you
the lucky?
believe that? That was so funny.
Oh no,
He
he's
actually did
and
that.
he held true to it as well. So and did it live on
No,
TV.
That's so
so
funny. So we can't get that out of you.
he's brilliant. No,
There's
I don't,
tap.
there'll be no tap if I get a
Michael, it's
logie.
been such a pleasure having
Thank you.
you
No,
today.
and thank you for
In
honestly,
so
thank
many
you for
ways.
asking me.
Oh,
Yeah.
no,
Here.
Really meant
thank you
that.
so much. And thank you to all our listeners.
Yeah.
And don't forget to rate and review. Watch us on YouTube.
Yes.
I
It's
mean,
free to subscribe.
I mean, this is Spotlight, and we've got Michael Usher
Hello.
as the Spotlight here. And I don't know, we love all the ratings and review, but
We do.
Di has her own rating
Oh,
system.
yes.
And because we love
I've got
5
so
out of 5
consumed by
stars.
Mike.
So we've got Michael Usher.
Oh, that's a
The
good one. Oh, I know what it is.
How many does he get out of
30
5?
out of 5. You've
But-
been in the industry 3 decades.
Three
Oh, there you
You're
go.
out of
Yeah.
5, you get 30.
Oh,
you're-
thank you.
you're over-
That's good. I like this.
Exactly.
I like it. Can you also run the judging for the Logies panel as well?
High five.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Back in your ears.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.